I hope you all are doing great. In this video, I'm going to share my experience of taking the UGC NET exam. I'll talk about what it was really like to face that intense time pressure, where every single question counts, and how the whole day went, from entering the gates to surviving the exam hall. I reached the center right on time. Entry started at 1 PM and the gates were locking at 2:30 PM. The moment I walked through, they gave me a good security check. Security has to be tight these days. Tech has evolved and people are getting incredibly creative with how they try to cheat. Once I cleared security, I walked into the exam hall and realized I was the absolute first person there. A few minutes later, two other guys walked in. One of them sat right behind me, and he was the type of guy who physically cannot sit still for a single second. Since there were only three of us in this massive room, he tried to strike up a conversation. He started asking the usual questions. What's your subject? Where are you from? Which attempt is this? I gave him short answers but didn't ask anything back. I definitely didn't want to get kicked out before the test even started. Once he ran out of questions, he decided to pass the time by using his desk as a drum set, singing along to his own beat, and he was surprisingly good at it. Eventually, the drumming stopped and I looked at the screen. There was still a full hour left before the exam, so I decided to just put my head down and take a nap. When I woke up, the hall was packed. I could feel the heat rising, and at first I thought I was just getting pre-exam nerves. I walked over to the water booth to get a drink and wanted to step outside for some fresh air, but rules are rules. They wouldn't let me leave the room. When I got back to my seat, I realized the actual problem. The ceiling fan above us wasn't spinning. Luckily, I was sitting in the corner next to some massive fancy sliding windows, so I cracked them open to get a cross breeze. Later, when the invigilator walked in, I complained about the fan. It turns out the fan wasn't even broken. A guy sitting directly under it had turned it off because he was feeling cold, and this was the middle of summer. Anyway, the clock struck and the exam finally started. The first 50 questions took up almost half of my total time. Looking at the clock, I had a mountain of questions left and a fraction of the time to do them. I started rushing, already knowing deep down that I probably wouldn't be able to finish. In the middle of this panic, a match the following question popped up. It was matching actors to their movies. The options were Tom Cruise, Leonardo DiCaprio, and a couple of others, paired with movies like Titanic and Mission Impossible. My brain went into overdrive. I thought, wait, the main character in Titanic is named Tom. Jack Dawson was played by Leonardo, but my panic brain forgot that. And look, there's Tom Cruise in the options. I confidently matched Tom Cruise to Titanic, completely forgetting that the Mission Impossible existed. I managed to confidently overthink my way into a totally wrong answer. I kept blazing through the rest of the questions as fast as humanly possible. With 10 minutes left, I still had a handful of questions to go, and they required way more reading than I anticipated. When the timer hit the final 10 seconds, I was down to the last two questions. I frantically tried to scroll down to click the answers, but the interface was a nightmare. For some bizarre reason, this computer-based testing software didn't have proper scroll arrows. You had to manually drag the scroll bars from both the bottom and the side just to see the choices. I was right in the middle of wrestling with the scroll bar to hit the submit when the screen locked. Time was up and those last two questions were left blank. So the exam is over and now I'm just waiting for the result. That's all for today. Stay tuned for the next video.